Welcome in, everybody. Happy Friday. It is time for another Far End of the Bench NCAA football top 10 rankings list. We've started this exclusively on our YouTube channel, so be sure to hit that subscribe button while you're here so you can keep up with everything else that's been going on. We've been putting out about 5 YouTube videos a week, so we have plenty of content. If you guys want to subscribe, ring the notification bell, leave a like and a comment. We love getting the interaction and the feedback from you guys as to what you think of some of the things we say. So be sure to get in on all of that. Also follow us at FEOTB Pod on all of our social medias. And we are on all podcasting platforms every Wednesdays when our new episodes drop. So be sure to check out the Far End of the Bench. If this is your first time, welcome. We are going to go through my top 10 NCAA football rankings. We've been switching back and forth. So I'm going this week. Nico did last week. And we'll see exactly where all these different teams land. Without further ado, let's go ahead. Let's get into number 10 this week. Now that the college football playoff vote rankings are out, I'm not going to be doing the first 3 out anymore because, who cares about 11, 12, and 13 at this point. Let's talk about 10 through 1 and focus on those top 4 spots that are going to be in the college football playoff. But without further ado, the number 10 team in week 12 of the NCAA football season is the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. You guys come back to number 10 after your loss to North Carolina a couple weeks ago. You did drop out, but I believe they moved back up into the top 10 best teams in the country. Sam Hartman, great quarterback. If you guys watch the QB1 series, I believe he was season 2 out of South Carolina. He's been doing great things for the Demon Deacons. This is a school that not many people even knew they had a football program until this season when they're now 9-1. Unfortunately, I said it a couple weeks ago, they're the best ACC team in a time when the ACC is just absolute not good. I won't go too far, but ACC football is not good in 2021. But Wake Forest still does count as the best team in the ACC, a Power 5 team. They've played a Power 5 schedule so far. They have a few more games coming up, and then obviously got to win this weekend to be able to make it into the ACC championship. But I like the Demon Deacons. They're my number 10 team this week in the NCAA. Michigan fans, you guys are not going to be happy with me. I didn't put you at 8 like I had my other 2 times I've done my rankings. I put you at 9. Yeah, the Michigan Wolverines, number 9 after their loss to Michigan State. I had them at number 8, and I just didn't feel right about putting Michigan State behind Michigan with the fact that Michigan State has beaten Michigan, and not just beaten them, came back from 16 points down to then dominate them by 10 points. Kenneth Walker absolutely dismantled that vaunted Wolverines defense in the second half. So Michigan, number 9, obviously still plenty of room to move up with the way that the Big Ten schedule plays out. They'll have, I believe, Purdue this weekend, and then they'll play Ohio State next weekend in the game, and we'll figure out who's going to be in the Big Ten East version of the Big Ten championship after Michigan State plays Ohio State as well. So there's still lots of stuff Michigan can do to push themselves forward. But right now I see them as the number 9 team in the country. Now to the little brother over there in East Lansing, the Michigan State Spartans, 9-1 after their loss to Purdue. Obviously that hurt them. They were up in my top 3, possibly going to move into the second spot if they were able to beat Purdue. Didn't happen, but they were able to bounce back. And now with the game against Ohio State this weekend, we know exactly what's going to happen after this. We're going to have more clarity as to who is going to be representing the Big Ten East after this showdown between the Buckeyes and the Spartans. I really like Michigan State. Obviously, their run game is great. Their passing game leaves a little bit to be desired, and their defense is going to have to play as well as it has all season to be able to beat C.J. Stroud and this Buckeyes offense. But if there's any year that Ohio State is vulnerable in the Big Ten, it's this season. It's been proven already once. But I think this is the biggest chance for Michigan State to get themselves back up in that college football playoff and make another appearance. They did it once before. Obviously, they can do it again. But right now, Sparty sitting at number 8 in the country. At number 7, I have the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, 9-1 on the season, still under Brian Kelly. And as much as I was giving Notre Dame flack for losing to Cincinnati, and I thought that they would end up turning around and losing a few more games, Notre Dame has done what they needed to and stayed on the winning track. Obviously, no conference championship is going to really hurt them. They're going to need a lot of chaos They're going to probably need Alabama to lose another game and then Georgia to lose in the SEC championship and a whole bunch of other nonsense to happen. But so far, Fighting Irish having a very solid season. If they did have that conference championship game, we'd be able to talk about them possibly moving up quicker. There is a chance, but it's going to take a lot of other movement at the top. Other than that, the Fighting Irish still solid. I think that they're probably a lock for a New Year's Six at this point if they're able to finish out the rest of their schedule. Not a bad year, obviously disappointing for a program like that, but no conference, it's difficult to make college football playoff. You know that. You've known that for quite some time, and you still refuse to get into a conference. So Notre Dame at number 7 at 9-1 this week in the NCAA. Now on to a team I think not many people would have as high as I do, and that's the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Still 9-1 after that loss to Iowa State. It's bad loss. I called it. I knew it was going to happen. Didn't want it to happen, and it still did. But now Oklahoma State, with the loss Oklahoma just suffered to Baylor, if they are able to win Bedlam, win in the Big 12 championship, Oklahoma State should have a very, very strong case to move from where I have them right now at number 6 to the top 4. They would be a one-loss Power 5 conference champion, and their loss would be to, unfortunately, Iowa State, who isn't going to finish with the best record this year. But you beat Oklahoma twice, once in the Bedlam game and then once in the Big 12 championship. Or if you end up beating a team like Baylor, who already has a win over Oklahoma, you've already beaten once, which everybody knows it's the most difficult thing in football to beat a team twice in a season. I think Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy has a really strong argument as to why they should be up in there in the top 4 or at least top 6 and have that opportunity to argue for themselves when we come finally time to Selection Sunday. But the Oklahoma State Cowboys sitting right there, not quite in the middle, second team out right now at number 6 in the NCAA. And they're back, almost like they never left. The Cincinnati Bearcats, still undefeated, still not necessarily putting up the kind of dominant performances they need, but they're getting a lot of help from the other Power 5 schools. That loss that Oklahoma took this past weekend, really tough. The fact that Alabama has 2 more decently tough games. I mean, Arkansas, who knows what Arkansas is going to do when they finally go up against Alabama, whether or not this has been a great season for the Razorbacks. But with what Cincinnati is still undefeated, still being able to win their conference games. They'll have SMU this weekend, which is a huge matchup. This was the game that would pretty much, if SMU came into this game undefeated and with the top 25 ranking, we're talking about this game being Cincinnati's showcase to push themselves into the top 4 in the committee's eyes. It's not how it's worked out. So Cincinnati still win, try and dominate. Don't really try and dominate because I took SMU plus 12, but if you want to make it into the top 4, you're going to have to dominate SMU. You're going to have to dominate the rest of your conference. When you get to your conference championship and you play Tulsa or UCF or whoever's going to make it into the AAC championship with you, you have to make sure they never want to play football again and score as many points as possible. Because if you don't have at least 3 or 4 blowouts, especially at this point of the season in mid-November, you're not going to be put there if you're a group of 5 conference champion when you've struggled through that group of 5 schedule. And we have schools in the Big Ten, the SEC, that are playing top talent in the country every single week. So Cincinnati, you're back in the top 10 at number 5. You'd be the first team out, which I know pains you guys to hear, but that's what you guys have been putting on film. So that's where you guys are at right now. Number 5 in the country, that's undefeated Cincinnati Bearcats. Now we get to the first of the top 4 for my Week 12 NCAA football top 10, and that is going to be the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, last week against Purdue, they ended up putting up a score that looked dominant. I will say that Purdue was able to score quite a bit late. Garbage time, you might call it, but it really wasn't. It was garbage time to a point, and then the Boilermakers started to make it a little bit interesting down the stretch. I think Ohio State could have been seeing it as maybe a little bit of a trap game. They know that they have Michigan State and Michigan coming up, so they knew that they had these tough games that they had to prepare for, and they might have been taking teams lightly, teams like Purdue lightly, but they do still find themselves in the top 4 behind the only team that's beat them so far on the season. And Ohio State with a win these next 2 weeks, and if they win in East Lansing, it's almost a given that they're going to win when they play Michigan because Jim Harbaugh can't beat Ohio State. But if they're able to do that, I think they're probably going to be in the top four and maybe even push for a 3 spot, unless Oregon does end up winning the Pac-12 with one loss. But Ohio State right now, number 4, final seed into the college football playoffs. Bill Walden, I hope I make you proud with this one. Oregon, the Oregon Ducks are number 3 in the country this week after continuing to win the games that they should, beating some solid Pac-12 teams. Now, you're not getting the best competition in the Pac-12, but Oregon has been able to do what Cincinnati hasn't, and that's put up some signature wins. Oregon has looked very good. That win against Ohio State is going to carry them through, and it's totally nullified that Stanford loss. I don't know how you could put Ohio State over Oregon with the fact that Oregon's already beat them once. Here's where it starts to get interesting. This is normally the part of the season where Oregon's usually undefeated, and this is where they drop their game. Now, they've already lost one of their conference games, so they don't have that little bit of wiggle room anymore. And is Thibodeau, is Anthony Smith, are these guys good enough to get the Ducks to the next level? I'm not quite sure, but they've done it so far, so I'll give them credit for what they've done. Oregon, though, is my team that's in the top 4 right now that I would see getting bounced first. I could see Oregon finishing. If they struggle a little bit down the stretch, they still end up winning and win a Pac-12 championship. I think Oklahoma State can make an objection to push themselves ahead of Oregon because they would have beaten Oklahoma twice. At this point, though, Oregon, if they handle business, they should at least be able to make a 4 seed. But right now I have them at the number 3 spot in this week's college football top 10. Going to seem a little bit like a broken record, but Alabama stays at number 2 behind the other team in the SEC that they're most likely going to see in the championship. The Crimson Tide, after their somewhat disappointing win against LSU, bounced back against New Mexico State, so pretty much a live bye week. And now you're finishing out your schedule. You have Arkansas, the Razorbacks, coming in with a really strong running game. This is the best Arkansas team, and you know that you're going to get their best shot because they still think they have a chance for, if they win this weekend, there's still a chance that they're able to pull out and be the representative for the SEC West in the SEC championship. I don't see that happening. I think Alabama and Nick Saban is going to be on point. They're going to understand what they have to do. I think they're going to win the rest of the games until they make it to the SEC championship. Then I think they're going to get knocked out in Atlanta by the team that I have at number 1. But Alabama right now, obviously, I think it's pretty clear that they are the second best team in the country. And this is why I have them here at number 2 in week 12 of the college football top 10. And that leaves us with the top dogs. And I say that, pun intended, 110%, because the Georgia Bulldogs are the best team in college football, best defense in college football that I've seen for the past 3 years. And that's what's going to carry this Georgia Bulldogs team to some of the success that they haven't seen, obviously, since 1980. But this is the year that Georgia has to win the national championship. JT Daniels playing really well at quarterback, but their defense allows for their offense to just go out there and play with their hair on fire and not have to worry about making mistakes because Georgia's defense is able to hold teams. They've held 3 teams this season without an offensive touchdown. One of those was Clemson, who was the national runner-up 2 years ago. So it's not like it's not like Georgia hasn't done some very impressive things. They've earned their number 1 spot. I see them making it into the SEC championship. They've already clinched their spot. And I see them winning the SEC championship in somewhat of a dominant fashion. I think that they have Alabama. They have the recipe to beat Alabama this season. And it's JT Daniels or Stetson Bennett, one of those two at quarterback. I think the Bulldogs have pretty much a straight shot here to the number 1 seed in the college football playoff. Well, that is the top 10 for the week. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Like I said at the beginning, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, ring the notification bell, leave a like and a comment. Also follow us at FEOTB Pod. Our new episodes drop every single Wednesday with our YouTube videos coming out throughout the rest of the week. This series that you're watching right now, our top 10 series, is exclusively on our YouTube channel. So be sure to go back and check out some of the other rankings, see where Nico and I differ when we put out our different lists and see how things have changed. We've started this in week 7. So now we're in week 12. We've done it for a little bit over a month. I think it'd be interesting to go back and check out where some of the things have changed, but be sure to do that. Subscribe to the channel, follow the podcast, become a bench warmer, interact with us. We love going back and forth. We'll debate sports with anybody. So with that, Thank you guys for tuning in. My name is Jimmy Pilato, one half of the Far End of the Bench podcast, and I will hope to see you guys over there on Wednesday.